The film starts in Los Angeles when President Ronald Reagan's motorcade arrives at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. As the president starts his speech inside, Secret Service agent Richard Chance is on high alert, scanning for potential threats. He notices a figure acting suspiciously on the roof and soon realizes the man is a terrorist carrying explosives. Richard quickly evaluates the situation and begins negotiating with the terrorist, hoping to defuse the situation peacefully. He speaks calmly, trying to buy time. Meanwhile, Richard's partner, Jimmy Hart, makes a bold move by climbing the side of the building unnoticed. Jimmy's quick and deliberate actions bring him to the roof, where he courageously pulls the terrorist away from the edge. The bomber detonates mid-air, far from the hotel, creating a massive shock wave. This heroic act saves many lives but leaves the agents to ponder the intense danger they faced. Later, Richard undertakes a hazardous stunt, jumping from the San Pedro Bridge with only a safety line. The thrilling jump highlights his fearless nature and willingness to take risks. After the exhilarating experience, he joins his colleagues at a local bar. There, they relax and share jokes over some beers. During the gathering, Richard presents Jimmy with a fishing rod as a retirement gift, symbolizing the calm and leisurely days ahead for him after years of dedicated service. Despite the celebratory atmosphere, Richard isn't ready to say goodbye to their partnership. He is determined to join Jimmy on a stakeout the next day, eager to keep working together. However, since Jimmy is only 3 days away from retirement, he wants to handle this stakeout alone, hoping to wrap up his career quietly without any issues. Meanwhile, in a hidden warehouse in the desert, counterfeiter and artist Eric Rick Masters is engrossed in producing thousands of fake $20 bills. This secluded warehouse, away from curious eyes, serves as the ideal place for Masters to carry out his detailed operation without disturbance. The air inside is thick with the sound of machines and the smell of fresh ink as Masters carefully crafts his counterfeit money. Determined to conduct the stakeout alone, Jimmy arrives at the warehouse and begins his investigation for evidence. His sharp observation leads him to a dumpster behind the building where he finds clear signs of Masters' counterfeiting activities, discarded printing materials, and incomplete bills. Just as Jimmy starts to put the evidence together, Masters, who has been watching from the shadows, ambushes him. Masters quickly overpowers Jimmy and shoots him dead, ensuring there are no witnesses to reveal his criminal operation. 2 days later, deeply worried about Jimmy's unexplained disappearance, Richard gathers a team of agents and leads them to the remote desert warehouse where Masters has been running his counterfeiting scheme. The team quickly entered the warehouse, ready for a thorough search. However, they were disappointed to find the place completely empty of any equipment used to make fake goods. Instead of the busy activity they expected, they found a quiet space with only a washing machine in the corner. This machine was probably used to clean up any evidence of illegal activity, suggesting that Masters had carefully covered his tracks before they arrived. The lack of evidence made Richard angry and even more determined to find out what happened to Jimmy and catch Masters. As the agents continued to search the warehouse, Richard went outside to see if he could find any clues about Jimmy's disappearance. He looked around with increasing worry, and his heart sank when he saw a dark red pool of blood coming from under a nearby dumpster. Feeling a sense of fear, Richard lifted the dumpster lid and saw the terrible sight of his partner, Jimmy, lying dead in a pool of blood. This shocking discovery was a huge blow to Richard, leaving him devastated and overwhelmed with sadness. The sight of his fallen partner only made Richard more determined to find Jimmy's killer and bring them to justice, as he mourned the loss of his friend. Richard escapes to his seaside apartment to find comfort in the calm environment, burdened by the death of his partner. As he struggles to process the tragedy, John's visit, a colleague from the recent warehouse raid, brings some solidarity. John observes Richard's intense grief and anger. In a passionate moment, Richard swears to bring Masters to justice at any cost, determined to hold the counterfeiter responsible for his partner's death. Seeing Richard's dedication and need for support, John steps in as his new partner. Together, they devise their next steps, channeling their sorrow and anger into a focused plan to hunt down Eric Masters, the elusive counterfeiter behind the crime. Their mutual objective is evident: find Masters, capture him, and bring justice for Jimmy's tragic death. A week later, Richard and JN are conducting surveillance at the airport, keeping a close eye out for any signs of Masters or his associates. Their vigilance pays off when they spot Carl Cody, one of Masters' key associates, trying to buy a ticket with fake money. Recognizing their opportunity, the the agents move quickly and arrest Cody on the spot. As Cody is taken into custody, Richard and Jan feel a renewed sense of purpose. This arrest might be the breakthrough they need to dismantle Masters' operation and get closer to avenging Jimmy's death. Later, Richard and Jan visit Cody in prison to interrogate him further. During their visit, Masters shows up, calm and composed, assuring Cody that his lawyer, Bob Grimes, will work on reducing his sentence, giving Cody some hope. However, Masters is worried about a critical detail: the missing cash delivery that Cody was supposed to hand over. Cody adamantly denies Waxman's claim that he delayed the delivery right before his arrest at the airport. As tensions escalate, Cody threatens Waxman, vowing to kill him once he is free. Later, Masters meets with his lawyer Bob Grimes to discuss reducing Cody's sentence. Masters is visibly anxious that if Cody stays in prison, he might divulge important details about Masters' operation to the authorities. Masters stressed the importance of keeping Cody quiet to protect their criminal group from being discovered. Meanwhile, Richard's girlfriend, Ruth Lehner, who was also an informant, gave him important information about Max Waxman. She said that Waxman had connections and knowledge that could be very helpful in their investigation. This new information was very important for Richard's search for justice for Jimmy and his plan to destroy Masters' criminal operation. In a dimly lit club, Masters told his dancer girlfriend, Bianca Torres, about the situation with Max Waxman. He said that Waxman had betrayed them, which was a big problem for their operation. Bianca, who was always supportive and resourceful, immediately offered to help Masters deal with the situation. Her involvement made the situation more personal and dangerous. Masters was preparing to deal with the betrayal and save his criminal business. Richard and Jan were watching Max Waxman's office when they saw Bianca Torres making a secret delivery inside. Bianca was tempted by Waxman's advances, but she left the door slightly open, which allowed Masters to enter. Masters was very angry about the betrayal and forced Waxman to open his safe and give him the money. A short fight happened, and Masters shot Waxman dead. Although Richard and Jan were asleep during the murder, they later entered Waxman's office with the police. As the story progresses, Richard stumbles upon a code book listing dates, dollar amounts, and the initials M. Ignoring John's advice about handling police evidence, Richard keeps the book, believing it holds vital information about Masters' activities. That evening, Richard and Ruth have a tense interaction, during which Ruth nervously asks about her payment for leading him to Max Waxman. Richard tells her that she will only be paid after an arrest and conviction, which frustrates Ruth. She grimly predicts that her role as an informant might eventually lead to her death, expressing her fears about her dangerous position. Before Richard leaves, Ruth informs him about a Chinese buyer coming from San Francisco to purchase $50,000 worth of stolen diamonds. Despite this lead, Richard remains focused on the counterfeit money scheme, warning Ruth that she must provide key details about Masters' operation or risk losing her parole. Meanwhile, John pursues a lead to Masters' studio, while Masters arranges a meeting with local dealer Jeff Rice at a basketball court. Masters offers Rice $75,000 to have Cody killed in prison, believing this will prevent further exposure of his operations. However, the hit on Cody fails. Richard then interrogates Cody, but Cody stays loyal to Masters and reveals nothing. Angered by the botched hit and lack of results, Masters confronts Rice, shoving a gun in his mouth during their confrontation. Masters insists that Rice give back the $75,000 and, in a fit of rage, sets the money ablaze right before his eyes. After persuading Judge Philo Cito to free Cody so he can help with the operation, Richard takes Cody into his custody to guide him to Masters' print shop. During their ride, Cody unexpectedly asks to visit his ill daughter in the hospital. Seeing a chance to gain Cody's trust, Richard agrees and removes his handcuffs before they enter the hospital room. However, as Richard gets momentarily distracted, Cody attacks him. In the ensuing scuffle, Cody overpowers Richard and escapes, leaving Richard frustrated and determined to find him again. Meanwhile, John Vukovic meets Bob Grimes in a dimly lit bar. Over drinks, Grimes vents about the difficulties of working with Masters, pointing out the dangers and unpredictability involved. After some negotiation, Grimes consents to arrange a meeting with Masters, promising to set him up with the agents, which could yield crucial information or a major breakthrough in their investigation. Richard and John, posing as bankers from the Cayman Islands, meet Masters at a local gym. They present themselves as interested in laundering a substantial amount of money using counterfeit bills. Richard mentions that they have a client who wants to launder bonds to avoid taxes, which catches Masters' attention. However, Masters, cautious about the operation, demands $30,000 in cash as a down payment. The department struggles to come up with the necessary decoy money for the operation. Richard suggested a different plan to John. He proposed that they secretly stop the diamond deal Ruth had told him about and take the $50,000. However, John was hesitant and finally refused the idea, saying he was worried about the risks and problems involved in changing their original plan. Then, Richard blackmailed Ruth into helping with the robbery, threatening her with prison time if she refused. She reluctantly agreed to help him. The plan went into action when Richard captured Thomas Lang at Union Station. JN arrived with them, and as they left the station, they noticed they were being followed by two suspicious men. Richard and John held Ling at gunpoint and searched his briefcase, finding a phone book and cash hidden in a secret money belt. Suddenly, shots came from above, killing Ling instantly. In the chaos, Richard and JN managed to escape their immediate pursuers in a dramatic car chase. However, they were soon being chased by a larger group of cars and armed accomplices. John took a dangerous route, driving up an off-ramp on the freeway and swerving through oncoming traffic in a desperate attempt to escape their attackers. Later, at an office briefing, Richard and JN received shocking news. Thomas Lang was actually an undercover FBI agent. This news was a big shock to them, as it meant they had been unknowingly involved in a much larger and more dangerous operation than they originally thought. The briefing revealed the extent of Ling's undercover work and the consequences of his death, adding a new sense of urgency to their investigation into Masters and his criminal activities. While Richard delivered the cash to Masters, he was now aware of the bigger picture and the danger they were in. Jake met with a lawyer named Grimes in a dark coffee shop to talk about his legal problems. Grimes told Jake that the only way he could possibly avoid going to jail was to admit he was guilty and give up Richard. Jake was really upset about this, but he refused to betray Richard. He said he would face the consequences instead. Meanwhile, Richard was getting ready for the next part of their plan. He picked up Cody from his girlfriend's place and then met up with Masters at the gym. They were about to arrest Masters when Masters' bodyguard shot Richard in the head. Even though he was badly hurt, Richard still managed to shoot back. Jake was terrified and left Richard behind to go back to Masters' warehouse. When he got there, he saw that Masters had set the warehouse on fire. Masters was sitting in the middle of the burning warehouse, laughing at Jake. He said Jake was stupid for not taking the lawyer's deal. Masters then beat Jake up and threw fake money on him. As the warehouse was burning down around them, Masters tried to set Jake on fire too. But Jake managed to shoot Masters first, and Masters fell into the fire and died. Later, Jake went to see Ruth to get the rest of the money from their robbery. He accused her of knowing that Lang was an undercover cop and of setting them up. Jake told Ruth that she was now working for him. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and see you again soon. Take care.